Hello guys, hope you are really well. Today I am at long last going to be doing the final part of my Q&A. I've already done two parts. The first was all things about Arsenal. I'll stick a link to it here. And the second was about football media, working in football media, advice for people who want to get into that, become a journalist, a few discussions about kind of ethics and how the job works. And today it's the miscellaneous section of the Q&A, so stuff that really has nothing to do with Arsenal, or in most cases football in general. Immediately, half of you are about to switch off. No problem at all. This is for the select few who are interested. And what better time to talk about all that than during the international break, when there isn't very much football happening. So yeah, thank you so much guys for watching this video and all the others. It's been amazing to see the growth of the channel. I think we're over 62,000 subscribers now. Please do subscribe if you haven't already. It's very, very much appreciated. But without any further ado, let's get straight into the questions. So, the first one is from Blarn95, and they ask, James, can you confirm or deny that it is indeed you doing the voiceover for the Costa Coffee adverts I keep hearing on my podcast? I can confirm it is me doing the Costa Coffee adverts. If you're not in the UK, you won't have heard these. If you're on the UK, you might have done on podcasts, or I think they're on a lot of radio, talk sport, things like that. Yeah, I'm the voice of Costa Coffee. I'm an actor, as many of you will know, and I have a voiceover agent and managed to get that gig. So it's a nice little gig. They keep having me back. Hopefully they keep having me back. Hopefully people keep buying Costa Coffee. Listen, the other coffee brands are available, but they don't employ me. So let's say Costa Coffee are the very, very best. Or as the phrase in the advert goes, that's coffee done a little better. There you go. That's what they pay the big bucks for. Sam Lockhart. James, I'm about to become a father for the first time. Wow. Congratulations, Sam. What is the best piece of advice you can give from your recent experience? Expect the unexpected. I'd say a lot of the preparation that you do for having a child is about giving you the illusion of control. Really, once that baby turns up, you're in fate's hands. There's a lot of chaos happening. And I think a lot of the prep, a lot of the reading, it makes you feel better because you feel like, you have some agency, some control in the situation, but ultimately you don't. And what you've got to do is trust your instincts, because it is all in there. So yeah, trust your instincts, I suppose, would be the main thing, and expect the unexpected. Jimmy James says, "Good day, James. Love your coverage. Thanks very much. What made you pursue acting as a career shift? It seems a far leap from football punditry, but could be encouraging to others looking to make large shifts themselves." Well, Jimmy, it's not a shift. I was acting long before I was writing about football. I started acting at school when I was about 15, 16. I started writing about football when I was about 18, and the two have kind of run concurrently. I suppose it's more the case that my football work was sort of more generating more notoriety, was more well known earlier. So now I start popping up in things acting, and it seems like, oh, this football writer's started doing a bit of acting. But the reality is I've always been doing both. It's just a lot of my acting work was theatre, fringe comedy, live comedy here in London. So it's stuff that, you wouldn't have heard about, really. But now I'm doing some high profile stuff, which is cool. But yeah, I've always done both. Similar theme. Hamjami, how did you end up both a sports journalist and also an actor? Childhood dreams, I guess. I loved acting in school. It was something I did that really made me feel creatively fulfilled and excited, and I loved being part of that community, being part of a play. Suddenly you're mingling with people, mixing with people, you're part of a team. I wasn't a great athlete, so I wasn't really part of those teams, and that was kind of the equivalent for me. Again, I've always been an obsessive football fan since I was about 8 or 9 years old, and so writing about it was sort of a natural step for me. I was always good at writing. It was something I, excelled in. I was bad at maths, bad at science, but I could always write. So that always just felt like a natural progression. And yeah, I essentially they sit quite nicely alongside each other, because acting by its nature is kind of quite bitty. You get hired for a job and then you might have a period without work. You never can guarantee the work because you're always auditioning. You don't necessarily know what project's going to be next. The nice thing about football is it's pretty consistent. you've got the season that keeps coming year after year. Even in the summer, it's the transfer season, it's maybe your busiest time as a football writer. So it's nice to have that kind of steady income supplementing the acting work. And I think sort of creatively and for my mind, it's quite helpful to be able to switch between. I never really get bogged down in one. If one is getting me down, if I'm struggling, if I've hit a bit of a writer's block, well, just turn around and do the other career. I always thought I'd have to choose eventually between them. So far, I haven't had to, and I don't really want to. I don't really intend to. Najib Khan, who are you, man? You're an actor, comedian, singer, writer, journalist, blogger, YouTuber. Who are you? Tell us about your life and your early life, and why and how are you all these? Well, the best thing I can recommend, honestly, is my book, The Champ and the Chump, which is ostensibly about this guy, Terry Downs, my grandfather, who was a world champion boxer, but kind of tells the story of his life alongside the story of mine, and you do find out a lot about who I am, my background, my upbringing, why I am the way I am. I think you find out a bit about that. And it's available as an audiobook as well, if you prefer that, if you're not much of a reader. I gather the audiobook is very good. I haven't listened to it myself because listening to 9 hours of myself talking would be slightly worrying from a psychological perspective. But that's the best place to go to find out all that stuff. Who am I? I think I'm pretty much who you see here. I don't think there's much of a veneer or a performance to this. I am an actor, so, believe me if you want. But yeah, I think this is pretty much who I am. I'm a little bit sillier, probably, in real life. More annoying. I like to do things that make me laugh and irritate other people. See the Got Enough video, if you haven't yet. Tim Tyler says, hi James, how do you balance... He says, I love how you balance football with performing arts, and I'm curious how you reconcile the two in your mind. As someone who went off football in my teens in favour of grunge music, literature, underage drinking and abstract art, but then caught the Arsenal bug again a couple of years later, as much as I love football, I consider it a degenerative brain disease, an appalling waste of mental capacity, and I'm envious of my artistic friends who aren't laden with ridiculous statistical junk that us fans will remember in old age better than the faces of our children. Football's like a soap opera once you know the characters, and matches are a bona fide opera with all the comedy, tragedy and skill. I'm just curious whether you tell yourself weird little things like that too when you're in the green room with your fellow players. They are very different worlds, but my attraction to both is similar. Like you say, football is high drama. It's a soap opera. Transfer stories, the interpersonal stories, that's a soap opera. And the games themselves are, they're in the traditions of epic storytelling, like the Odyssey and the Aeneid and the great operas, Shakespearean tragedy, Greek tragedy. It's all there. Gladiatorial combat, it's all there in a Premier League football match. And that's why I'm drawn to it. And, as a football writer or a football podcaster or a football YouTuber, you are taking seemingly quite random sporting events, the ricochet of a ball, and effectively turning that into a story. You are playing your part, if it's not, doesn't sound too grand to say, in sort of shaping that narrative and turning it from some blokes kicking a ball around into a legend, into a myth. And I enjoy that creative aspect of it. Is football, what did you describe it as, a degenerative brain disease? I don't know about that. I do sometimes worry about, how invested I am in football, how much time I spend thinking about something which is outside of my control, and getting so invested in something that's entirely out of my control. I am envious of people who don't have that investment in some ways, who, their life is more defined by things they do. But I think everyone gets vexed about stuff that's out of their control. If it wasn't football, it'd be politics or climate change, or I think it's human nature. We're all invested in lots of different things, and we're all frustrated by lots of different things. And football is kind of the prism through which my emotions are expressed. This is from Left B, and they say, hi James, followed your work for the best part of 10 years now. As brilliant as your insights on football are, what I think you truly excel at is managing multiple careers. Is there a process or guidelines you follow to separate your journalism, Arsenal fandom and blogging, and theatre and comedy? Thanks, Lef. That is a great question. I think it's increasingly common for people to have more than one line of work, even if we don't all know about it. I saw Jamie Jackson, who writes, or I think he's the Northern football correspondent for the Guardian, but he's also got this other career as a novelist and doing creative writing. I think that's really exciting. I know that someone like Jonathan Yu, who's just the most brilliant sports writer, Barney Ronay, I think they were developing a script with Netflix at one point in time. I'm glad that we live in a world where people can branch out and explore other opportunities. What is my advice? My personal advice to myself is often just like, don't look down. Kind of like a trapeze artist, it's quite difficult to keep these things in balance. And sometimes if I think about it too much, I get overawed and I get intimidated and I think, oh, how the hell am I going to pull this off? Or is this the right decision? Am I giving enough of myself to every aspect of my work? But when I just get on with it, when I'm just practical about it, when I just get it done, I feel really satisfied and I feel really happy. I love working. I really love working and I love making things. That's why I love these videos, why I love these podcasts. I love that I spend a bit of time and something exists and other people can engage with it and enjoy it. Very gratifying, whether that's in the football world or not. But give yourself times as well. Say, this afternoon I'm working on that. Try and be a bit disciplined about time allocation. I think you need to be when you're doing lots of different things. Anthony Russo, congrats on 60,000. Thank you very much. I was wondering how you split your working week. Do you work around the clock or are your work commitments pretty flexible? Well, football journalism, my primary employers are probably The Athletic, but it's not a 9 to 5 in a conventional sense. Football journalism involves working at games, working weekends, working nights, being on the phone to a contact in the evening when they've put their kids to bed, reacting to breaking news. It is flexible, but it's very reactive. So you need to be flexible too for when something happens to be able to respond. Something like acting work, obviously, if they need you, they need you. And I'm very blessed that in, say, Andrew at Arsblog and The Athletic, I've got people who understand my position and respect it and do everything they can to accommodate the other work I do. Very grateful for that. Without that, none of it would work. So I have to place that on record. Romet 1000. Hello from Sweden. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well. How's your family? And how do we make our children Arsenal fans? I have a daughter who's 4 and a son who is 2. I think I will make my first watch along with my kids this season with a lot of snacks and stuff. I just bought my daughter an Arsenal shirt with Blackstenius on the back, of course. Well, how are my family? They're good, thank you. The baby's asleep right now, as he usually is when one of these videos is being recorded. I'm taking the opportunity. How do we make our kids Arsenal fans? Well, I took Rocky to the Emirates Stadium when he was, 4.5 months old, 5 months old, something like that. I've got him locked in now. That's it. There's no way back. If you're not in that position where you're lucky enough to do that, you can't force it on them. My dad was a Chelsea fan. He tried to force it on me, but I wanted to be an Arsenal fan, and there was no way I was going to be swayed from that. I loved that red shirt, fell in love with it straight away, and then loved Ian Wright. So I think as much as we try and force them, we can't. And probably if you do force them, probably if you do put that pressure on them, it'll probably put them off. I genuinely think if your kids see it as something that you're interested in, they'll probably be interested in it too. And hopefully it'll be a great bonding experience when you do that watch along later this season. Richard Kirk, hey Richard, does the success of your journalism and acting careers mean that the beasts and your stand-up career are over or just on the back burner? I look back on Beast and in particular Show the Boxer very warmly. Thanks so much. No, they're not over at all. Beasts, for those who don't know, are a sketch act that was part of a 3-man group. We've got a YouTube channel, Beasts Comedy. Go and check it out. There's some really good stuff on there that I'm very proud of. We are great mates, pretty much, really good friends. They were ushers at my wedding. But Beasts as an entity, as a trio, I doubt very much we're going to be performing regularly anymore. We've all got kids now. We've all got stuff going on, and just synchronising our diaries to write and perform a show as we used to do, as we did for 5 years, pretty much non-stop, is pretty unlikely. We have got some sort of scripted ideas. By that I mean like ideas for screen, be it for YouTube or TV or whatever, that we're working on, which I think is cool, and hopefully I'll get to work with them in that capacity. As for my stand-up and my performing live, no, I really hope that's not over at all. In fact, I've got plans for a new live show, but it's just daunting to sort of start again, especially because the Boxer was a bit of a hit. Following that up is actually quite daunting, and I need to get over that little bit of fear and get back out on stage because I miss it. Guna, what do you consider yourself first and foremost professionally? A journalist, comedian, actor? What's your primary role? Yeah, like what would I put on my passport or my death certificate? What did I do in my life? I guess I'm a writer, really, these days. I do act and I love acting, but what do I love acting in? Principally things I've written. Nothing gives me more pleasure than performing my own material. So add that to the football writing that I do, the book that I've written. I work on quite a lot of scripts. For example, I don't know if many of you would know this, but currently I'm working for Cartoon Network on some animation series. I did a series called Ivandoe with them. I wrote a number of episodes for that. I'm currently writing for a show called Gumball. So these are like aimed at kids, and yeah, I write scripts for animations. That's a big part of my life. And I'm working on sitcom ideas, got film ideas in development. So in development just means like they're in the process of maybe being made, maybe not being made, and it takes years to find out, and it's very frustrating. But writing really is what I do. I feel like acting, when it comes along, is sort of a bonus, something I love, but it's not something I have a huge amount of control over. So I guess I'm a writer first and foremost. Even doing podcasts with Andrew or whatever, I feel like writing, you're still putting words in an order, right? It's just kind of like improvised writing. Sounds very pretentious. Louis Wakely, long-time listener, first-time commenter. You said you prefer non-transfer related questions, so here you go. Is that or is that not Warhammer? I spotted on your shelves behind you. If so, what army did or do you collect? Reveal yourself as a total nerd. I dare you. It feels odd being a massive fan of both football and Warhammer, like two different worlds at times. You're right, they are two different worlds. It is Warhammer. I was a fan of Warhammer as a kid, a collector and a modeler and painter. For the people who don't know, it's wargaming, but you build and you paint little 28mm models. And I was, as a kid, someone who loved the artistic side. I loved, creating my own models, like converting them and doing a bit of modelling and painting them up. And I never played the games. I didn't really. There was a lot of rules, a lot of dice rolls, and it was too complicated for me. And then I sort of, I've dropped out of it when I got a bit older. I was about 16 probably. Certainly by the time I was at university, I wasn't really paying any attention to it. And then lockdown happened. And I think like a lot of people, lockdown was a time where I suddenly had the opportunity, the time, the space to reconnect with a lot of old hobbies. And that was one. And so, yes, that is what you've seen in boxes up on my shelves. There's none in here, I don't think. But, yeah, so I play principally, what do I collect? I play a game called Blood Bowl, which is like a fusion of Warhammer and sport. It's like an NFL-style game, but the teams are like orcs or goblins or elves or dwarves. It's incredibly competitive. It's basically at the high end like chess. It's a dice-based board game, turn-based, and yeah, there is a PlayStation version of it and a PC version that are pretty popular, but the tabletop game is really good fun, and I've started playing more and more, and it's great. It's great to do something analog as well. So much of my life is digital. Okay. Simon Fayers. James, love your work. Thanks. We know you have the voice of an angel. C magpies. F magpies forever. Do you play any instruments? If yes, what? If no, what would you like to be able to play? Cheers, Simon. At school, until I was about 17, 18, I played the double bass, upright bass. I played in orchestras, in jazz bands. Loved it. Loved it. I think I'm grade 6 officially, but I haven't played it for years and years. What do I wish I played? I'd love to play guitar or piano well. Maybe piano. I just think there's something amazing about being able to sit down and play an instrument as beautiful as that. And you can play it with the double bass. It's like you're the accompaniment. You know what I mean? You're the bass line. Pardon me. You're the bass line. But piano, guitar, it's like you can, you know what I mean? You can do whatever you want. You can be a soloist, which is cool. Mr. Dreamland, how much do you love the Saka Akira shirt out of 10? And as a result, do you therefore love the illustrator Dan Evans? He's one of my best mates. I love that shirt. I adore that shirt. In fact, I'm going to go and look up Dan Evans, the illustrator, now, because I love that shirt so much. I will admit, I got sent it as a freebie through Andrew, through the Arsecast, because I think we gave some away. I wear it all the time. Because also it's football, but it's like cool. I often feel a bit of a wally, especially given my sort of Arsenal connections, walking around in an Arsenal top. I feel like I look a bit like, hey guys, it's me, Gunnerblog. But that makes me feel like I'm just wearing a nice cool t-shirt. But I know what it's about, and anyone who looks closely knows what it's about. Gize says, hi James. First, do you and Camille ever discuss roles for each other in your respective comedy worlds, or think about collabing more? Great question. So my wife Camille is a brilliant comedian in her own right. She co-hosts a podcast called Birthday Girls House Party. It's really good. They've had some great guests on, including me. Go and check it out. She's a brilliant actress as well. She's in the Horn Section TV show for Channel 4. She did something very good called Lee and Dean, which you might have seen, which was also Channel 4. Super talented, better actor than me. Do I think about collabing with her? We have sort of done a little bit. I obviously did that sort of prank video, the Got Enough video, which went viral. And after that, we had a few opportunities to sort of work together. But it's difficult, you know, we live together, we've got a kid. I don't know. I think it's probably quite important. Our work lives are a little bit separate. Maybe one day I'd love to. Yeah. Thanks for bringing it up. Maybe I should chat to her about it. Naz Osman says, please explain to everyone why The Lord of the Rings is the greatest movie of all time. Let's see if he answers this. Which one? I think they're all pretty good. I love them. It's one of those movies where if it's on, I'm going to watch it. I've just told you I'm into Warhammer. I love all that sort of stuff. Bertman says, hi James. Listening to the Arsecast for about 15 years. Wow. And sub to Gunnerblog for nearly as long. When you can do another Arsenal transfer window music parody. They're the best. Big up from down under, mate. I'd like to. You know what? I started working on like a Declan Rice Baby one. All right, stop. Negotiate and bids in. Something like that. All right, stop. Negotiate, then bids in. Rice is Arsenal's and Edu is grilling. But then I was like, does anyone want to hear me rap Vanilla Ice about... Don't answer that. Hoodratlica says, James, how did you manage to convince your wife to marry you? I didn't. I never proposed. She was going to propose to me, and she bottled it and said, I was going to propose. What would you have said? And I said, I probably would have said yes. And then we just decided, right, well, I guess we're engaged. We should get married. So I didn't propose. I didn't have to convince her. Ha ha. Sco says, hi James, how did you come across your part in Ted Lasso? And well done, by the way, you played it well. Well, it wasn't a great stretch for me to play a football reporter. I auditioned like everybody else for the part of a football reporter in season 3. And it was actually, they gave that part to a woman. But for my audition, instead of just, because it was like a 2-line little tiny part, instead of just doing that, I did loads of I wrote a load of extra dialogue. So I wrote all these gags of like me asking these stupid questions in football press conferences and filmed it all and sent that off as my audition. And I think the guys thought it was funny because they were like, oh, we're going to create another role for you, which was really sweet. And the role was actually supposed to come back later in the series and have a little bit of an arc to it. But Lo and behold, it was not to be. They had so many characters, stories to piece together and fit in that some stuff had to fall by the wayside, and understandably I was not a priority. But yeah, no, I genuinely auditioned. I do know some of the guys and the show, and I'm sure that didn't hurt, but I'd like to think there was some merit involved as well. Maybe one day I'll upload the video that I sent them, because it was quite funny. I made way too much effort, basically, because I really wanted to do it, because it's people I love and a show I really enjoyed, and it was a very cool thing to be part of. Agent Michael Scam says, "Hey James, I really enjoyed your book. Any plans for another or other personal projects in the works?" Yeah, I'd love to write a novel. I'd love to write a novel. I sort of know what it would be, but it's just a question of time. And in terms of a football book, I do have an idea for an Arsenal-related book, but I don't know how it would intersect with my athletic work. I might have to speak to them about if it could be kind of a co-pro, because I think they'd be a bit like, why are you doing all these interviews for your book and not for us? So, got to get around that one. Jarmalugu says, "So James, what did the didgeridoo?" And that is my question for you. I don't know if I need to answer that one. What are 5 books that change your life? Says Brun K. McGurr. I actually looked at this and I wrote down 5 books. It's impossible to answer, but The Hobbit. I've just told you I'm into goblins and elves and dwarves and stuff. So The Hobbit was like a seminal thing for me growing up. Maybe even more so than Lord of the Rings. I read it when I was really young, The Hobbit, and it stuck with me. Dune by Frank Herbert. I read that recently, only a few years ago. Blew my mind, the kind of depth of the world that he was able to create. If you're into sci-fi at all, I urge you to read it. It is brilliant. A book by Donald McRae called Man's World, The Double Life of Emile Griffith. I found out about this story when I was researching my own book. Emile Griffith, a boxer, who was kind of taunted for his homosexuality or bisexuality, and responded in the ring. It's an incredible epic tale, a movie that needs to be made, to be honest. A book by Graham Swift called Last Orders, which I read as a teenager, which I think about all the time, and sort of a real reference point for me. It's about some old Londoners taking some ashes down to Margate. I just loved it. I loved the way the story was told. I loved the world that it was set in. I loved the heart of it. I loved the different voices of the characters. And then a book I think everyone I know has read, which is Sapiens by Yuval Harari, I think it is. But I just found it really informative and educative. It was like pop science done really well. And it sort of opened up that whole genre to me, where I was like, oh, science isn't just this thing I was bad at school. It can actually be really fascinating if the story is well told. So I'd say that. Chris Jones, if you could pick 3 people from past or present to hang out with the pub for an evening, who would you choose? Let's say maximum 1 Arsenal-related person and at least 1 non-sporting. Well, Arsene Wenger. Got to be, right? Pivotal figure in my life and someone who I'd love to sit down and chat to. From the sort of theatre, comedy, acting world, Steve Coogan. I'm a massive fan of Steve Coogan, particularly his work as Alan Partridge. I think he's an intriguing character as well. I've never met him. I'd love to pick his brains. I'm sure he'd hate me doing that, but that would be part of the fun. And funnily enough, the 3rd name I've written down here, I wrote this a few weeks ago when I was preparing this Q&A, is a guy called Bray Wyatt, or Wyndham Rotunda, who has since passed away. Wyndham Rotunda's his birth name. He performed under the name Bray Wyatt as a professional wrestler with WWE. And that is another sort of secret passion of mine. Again, something I was really into as a teenager and really sort of faded away from. And I've always kept half an eye on it. Because again, I love the drama, the sort of storytelling, the pageantry. And I'll be honest, I think the person who sort of got me interested in it again was Wyndham Rotunda or Bray Wyatt. And he passed away from a heart attack, age 36, like I say, a week or two ago now. And the reason I would have wanted to sit down with him is because I think he was a really fascinating artist. I think he was incredibly creative, incredibly dedicated. He had a very real sort of singularity of vision in everything he did. I think he was a brilliant actor as well, to be honest with you, and an amazing orator, storyteller. He was a decent athlete, a big guy who moved very well and could tell a story in the ring, but he was a movie maker, really, in terms of his vision and his sort of aesthetics. And I found him very inspiring, and I think I really admired the dedication and creativity he brought to everything he did. It's something I wish I aspire to have myself, and I don't think I do. I would have loved to have picked his brains about his ideas, his processes, because there was great depth to his work, and that's something I really admired. So rest in peace, Wyndham Rotunda, who, you know, celebrities die and people are very affected by it. And I have to say, for me, that was quite a new experience. I think the fact that he was almost the same age as me, had young children, I've now got a young son, seeing him suddenly, this seemingly very healthy guy, suddenly pass away, it really does hit you hard. And selfishly, I'm just sad I won't get to enjoy his work anymore, because I think he had so much more to give. So he'd be the third guest at my dinner party. Brooke Castellan says, "Hi James, at what age were you before..." I thought this was going to be a very serious question. It's actually very silly. "Hi James, at what age will you be informing your innocent young child about the tragic violence perpetuated around the world by the scourge of the earth known as magpies? My kid is 2 and I don't know how to break the news. Protect them from it as long as you can, right? Just keep those magpies away. Let them enjoy their innocent childhood before they find out the true horrors of the atrocities that magpies commit." Vishnus, what was it like to work on Polite Society? I loved your cameo in the movie. What was it like to work on it? Quite brief for me. I mean, if you've seen the movie, it's really good. It's about a girl. It's a British movie. It's kind of a comedy action film. It's set within the Asian community. I think a girl is going to have an arranged marriage, and her sister decides to sort of rescue her from it. With kind of kung fu antics breaking into the wedding party. It's good fun, and I pop up. I'm the head waiter at the wedding. What was it like to work on? Really nice, lovely people, brilliant young actors. Yeah, I was very flattered to be asked to do it. I auditioned and I got the part, and yeah, it was cool. It was cool. I think it's the first movie I've been in. So first thing that was on cinema release, you could go into the cinema and see my face on a big screen. And that was cool. There's no getting away from that. I waited a long time for it, so it's really nice. Jellyman says, "Hi James, I'm curious as to what your degree is." Yeah, at university. "I love your many different lines of work. Any tips for someone who'd like to work across a number of different areas?" I think we've spoken about that a bit. I did an undergraduate degree in English literature. I didn't read many of the books, but I sort of blagged my way through it. And then after that, I did a postgraduate 1-year acting course, accreditation essentially, at the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama in North London, which was really helpful. I learnt a lot from a brilliant acting teacher called Ben Naylor. Seek him out. He is amazing. Matt Taylor. "Hi James, love the content, thank you. Alongside your journalism and podcasting, you're obviously a successful actor. Something I have very little confidence doing is presentations. And I was wondering, how as an actor you overcome any stage fright or anxiety you have?" Wow, what a great question. When I was doing that postgraduate acting course, we had to write a little dissertation, and I wrote mine about stage fright. And the sort of thesis I was exploring was, could stage fright be harnessed as a positive tool for performance, in the same way that adrenaline might be for an athlete? And there's some interesting thinking around that. And that would be my answer, really, is you, as a performer, if you're going out on stage, you want that little bit of nerves. I understand for some people that's kind of becomes an overriding thing, but I think you've got to let that bit of nerves in and live with it and say, this is just my body preparing me, and try and use it. I mean, obviously, if you're shaking or your voice is shaking, that's a whole other matter. And in that instance, I would recommend deep breaths. I know it sounds so simple. Breathing in, counting to 10, breathing out, in through your nose, out through your mouth. Nothing settles the body like that. There's a reason that all these footballers puff out before they take their free kicks and their penalties. Watch Bukayo Saka take a penalty. Now I'm going to hit it. Yes, okay. Van Poopel says, long time listener of the Arsecast. I love the Champ and the Chump. Do you have plans for another book? Is fiction something you'd consider? We talked about that. Hopefully one day. Richard Eden. My daughter is a big fan of yours and horrible histories. My question, though, is to do with homophobia in the game. That's a big pivot. And how disappointed you are with the likes of Jordan Henderson, who was a huge voice trading in his own morals for a payday. I myself looked at Jordan with admiration for using his platform to advocate for equal rights across the game, but now I have to question sometimes the motives of professional players. Do you think there is a genuine attempt to improve things within the game by these players, or do you believe it's individuals using their platforms to say what the public want to hear? I think Jordan Henderson absolutely meant his support of the LGBTQ plus community. I'm sure he does believe in equality. I'm sure he does want an equal society, and he wants abuse to end. I honestly think that what happened was that he was offered an amount of money that he felt he couldn't say no to. And that was the most frustrating thing for me about his interview with The Athletic that he did. It was a great get for The Athletic, and a well done interview by David Ornstein, Adam Crafton, who himself is an out man, and I think it was probably partly why Jordan Henderson chose to do it with The Athletic, you know, so that he could say, well, look, I'm sitting down with Adam Crafton, no one's going to grill me harder than him. And they did grill him. But what frustrated me was that one of the things that Jordan Henderson said is, my move to Saudi Arabia is not about the money. And for me, at that point, everything else you say completely loses credibility. You have to treat your audience with some respect. You know, I think it's ludicrous, really, to expect us to believe that. And I think as soon as you say something like that, your credibility on all other matters is kind of called into question. I was very disappointed that he went there. A lot of people I know within the gay community were, or the queer community more broadly, were gutted and felt very betrayed and very let down. And I feel sorry for them about that. I was pleased to see that Aaron Ramsdale came out and spoke about his brother and, you know, his desire for kind of homophobic abuse within football to end. And he admitted, you know, there have been times where I've let things slide in the dressing room or from the stands, and I don't want to let it slide anymore. And we need people to be like that. We need people to stand up and say, I'm going to take responsibility here. I'm not just going to let the culture persist. But it is an issue I'm passionate about. And yeah, I think that progress is being made, but there's a long way to go still. Assassin FX, cheers, James. Favourite city you've been to on your travels? Favourite city? Copenhagen is beautiful, but it's much too expensive. Lakes Rhino, well done on 60k, you deserve it, thank you. Question, have you ever played for a football team? If so, what position, and were you any good? Yeah, I've only really played for one 11-a-side team, FC Bartoli, and I played predominantly as a left back or left winger because I'm left-footed, and when you're left-footed, people shunt you into those positions. I'm not great. If I had to compare myself stylistically to a player, I'd say I'm a bit like Granit Xhaka. You know, good left foot, powerful shot, powerful tackle, not the most nimble. Bad Xhaka. I'm bad Xhaka. Not good Xhaka. Not close to good Xhaka. Yeah, and when I played up on the left wing, I sort of played a bit like Podolski. Did nothing unless the ball came at me, and then I would just sort of swing it across or smash it at the goal. Left back, I don't know, Andre Santos. It wasn't great. Raf Catch Drums. My one question is, what is your favourite current musical artist or track you're blasting in your earbuds? Love knowing what kind of music folks are into. I guess I'd have to say Stormzy, because I went to see him at All Points East a few weeks ago in the most apocalyptic storm. Viewers in the UK, I think, can get that gig on Channel 4 Plus or whatever it's called. But I think that's like the fourth time I've seen him, third or fourth. So he'd be right up there. Yeah, I'd have to say him. What track am I blasting in my earbuds at the moment? Oh, I've been blasting this track. What's it called? Swallowed. It's something that I listened to as a teenager. It's by Bush, and it's called Swallowed. And I just, you know when you remember a song from like 20 years ago? I remember someone playing it at school. We had like a Battle of the Bands contest at school, and someone played this song, Swallowed. And I heard it again the other day, and now I'm like listening to it on repeat. Swallowed by Bush. It's very sort of emo, indie. But yeah, I'm listening to that a lot. I do this, I kind of obsess about songs. Have you played for a football team? We've done that one. Favourite city? Amar, if you weren't a football writer or a YouTuber, what would you be doing with your life instead? Well, I'd probably be doing the acting, but I'd just be more poor. Will Campo, quick question. We all tune into your YouTube videos and podcasts because we value your insight, but what do you read, watch, listen to? For example, outside of sports, I'm a big fan of Scott Galloway and Cara Swisher's podcast, The Pivot. Great question. I like sort of like popular science stuff. Like I listen to like TED Life stuff. I love shows like Desert Island Discs. I love Brett Goldstein's show, Films to Be Buried With, because I'm into my movies. I like Song Exploder. That's a great show. Check it out if you've never listened to it. There's also a Netflix TV version where artists talk through the writing process of their songs. Ordens Finn says, if you had to make a choice by making a living acting on stage or doing videos about Arsenal, what would you choose? I mean, if I could make a full living from this, doing videos like this, then that would be pretty sweet, because I could have like complete control of when I work. But I'll always end up going on stage, I think, in some capacity. I just love it. I think it's sort of who I am. It's quite a big statement, isn't it? It's when I feel most connected. It's when I feel most like I'm in flow. It's when I'm on stage. Joseph Clark, what would your younger self think of your life right now? Being an Arsenal fan and getting to work so close to the club you love all your life, it must be an amazing feeling. I think they'd be pretty chuffed, to be honest, and I don't think about that enough. It's probably something we should all think about. You know, what would the kid me think of the choices I've made, the life I've led? I think they'd be very proud of what I've done in terms of work, but I think they'd be more proud of my marriage and my family. I think that's by far my greatest accomplishment and by far the best decisions I've ever made in my life. Aaron John, how has fatherhood, well there you go, changed you as both a person and a sports journalist? Does it have any implications to your content creation endeavours as a whole? Warm regards from Melbourne. Warm regards to you too. Yeah, it has loads. And it's caused me to sort of enter this period of considering what my next move is, what I really care about, what work is going to make my son proud of me, what work is going to ensure I have the stability and the income to give him the life he deserves, all these questions. It really does shift your perspective, as anyone who has kids will probably tell you. I think particularly for men, I think we feel this kind of like dynastic feeling of like, what am I going to leave my son? What's my legacy going to be? I think culturally we've kind of been burdened with that. Scott says, by James, how do you feel about fans approaching you in the stadium? I was sat right in front of the journalist area once in the Emirates, saw you working. I would have loved to come for a chat, but felt bad about potentially disturbing you. Come up and say hi, always. If I'm really busy and really up against it with work, I'll just say that and we'll we'll carry on with our lives. But I've always got time to say hello. I've always got time to do a selfie or whatever you want. It's always a pleasure to meet people. And always tell me your name. I always find that people come and they go, "Oh, you're James." And I'm like, "Yeah, who are you?" And I have to sort of drag that out of them. But I want to know who you are. I want to know why you support Arsenal and all that kind of stuff. Scott Salmon says, this is the last question. Hi James, 2 questions. First, a friend asked me what the point of subscribing is. He was under the impression he would have to pay. I disabused him of that, but realised it was a bit hazy on the purpose. Can you explain? Well, I think it just ensures that, if we release more videos, you're going to get them on your YouTube feed. I think you can sign up for notifications and alerts as well. So I think it just generally helps increase the size of the channel and the amount of views we get. I love how I say we. It really is just me and my phone. Second, I've been following you for some time. Is this writing and acting alongside each other something you planned, or did you fall into it? I didn't plan it. I just pursued 2 things I loved with equal degrees of fervour, and here we are. If I was going to be unkind to myself, I'd say I'm not quite successful enough at either to give the other up. Alternatively, you could say I'm doing both, I'm enjoying both, and I'm nailing it. Kind of depends how I'm feeling that particular day. Depends on my mental health, how I answer that one. Listen, guys, I'm going to leave it there. This is 45 minutes of content. If you made it this far, congratulations. You are a trooper. It's been a real pleasure, actually. So nice. I hope it was interesting. That's all I can say, because these questions are niche. They are really just about me and my life. So I'm very grateful that anyone even cares. We're going to be doing a waffle podcast, actually, speaking of niche questions, for Arseblog this week. So if you're a Patreon subscriber there, check that out. If not, I'll be back later in the week, probably with something to do with Arsenal. But I'll leave it there for now. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye-bye.